for Global Business Update. Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. It's a bit of a quiet day today, really. A data day, that is, really today, because, well, there's not a lot about. So basically, things are fairly mixed in far as Asia's concerned. SoftBank's Vision Fund reported a big loss. That was the big market news yesterday. And going on from that, what they've actually done, the Nikkei down, South Korea down, Australia up very, very fractionally. Alibaba up merely because it's going for a secondary listing in New York. But the main news basically was the business about SoftBank, which was actually dumping its shares as far as Uber's concerned, which I'll come on to in a moment. The only really upside of the China markets is Shenzhen component up very slightly because of Zhengzhou TMS technology stock, and also another one. These are self-drive stocks, which are actually Shenzhen Road Rover up a bit as well, because the Chinese government is issuing guidelines for self-drive. It may be that this is what's going to happen in the future in China. As far as Japan's SoftBank's concerned, it dumped the whole of its investment in Uber. The investment unit of SoftBank has not been doing very well. Its Vision Fund, it's called. It lost 2.93 trillion Japanese yen. That's quite a lot of money. $21 billion worth of loss there. And in June quarter, one of the highest on record. Relatively good news globally. Food prices fell sharply in July. It could be, of course, that this respite doesn't last. Basically, we've got lower wheat and vegetable oil prices, a bit of release from Ukraine, which you know about, and a strong dollar as well, sort of keeping heads not too excited about this, but whether or not this deal between Ukraine and Russia will actually hold, really food prices depend on that. Let's turn our attention to the United States. Stock futures rising a little bit in the United States. Wall Street awaits inflation figures out tomorrow, very, very slightly up from yesterday. Dow Jones up, futures adding 62 points. In normal trade, the S&P slipped about 0.1%. Nasdaq down about 0.1%. Dow gained 29 points. So basically, I rather like this quote that I got from the markets this morning about you should use a rally like this to sell some stuff you're trying to get rid of. You know, you don't want the cheese anymore. You want out of the trap. That's what they're saying in New York. And some decent news. I don't really know where how they get these figures, but apparently US consumers are expecting inflation to fall very, very slightly. They're expecting the annual rate. Now, how on earth do they calculate this? I don't know the answer to this question, but anyway, I can only quote what I've been given, to run at 6.2% and 3.2% for the next 3 years. That's quite a drop off from 6.8 to 3.6%. So basically, I think what the Fed is doing is quoting these figures to say, look, we're doing the right thing by raising interest rates. So that's consumer expectations. Coming back to the UK, the leadership battle continues. Now Rishi Sunak is promising support for households in the cost of living crisis. Boris Johnson came back from holiday, decided that he wasn't going to do anything about this because, I mean, you know, they could couch it in all sorts of different words. Basically what it's saying, it's not my job anymore because I won't be leader of the party in September. So Rishi Sunak is promising more help, but what exactly that will be on top of the £400, which was already announced a while ago for everybody in the UK to help with fuel bills. He's not actually quoting the actual figures until he sees what the energy price cap is, which the regulators will be quoting in October. It could be the first nursing strike ever in this country. The Royal College of Nursing saying it's going after a 15% pay rise, junior doctors as well. The government's agreed 5% for health workers. And given inflation is over 9%, that really does not actually touch the sides for them. And also retail sales as well, falling, as you would imagine, failing to keep pace with soaring inflation. There's a lot more activity, but volumes apparently are continuing to fall. And finally, oil prices up about 2% yesterday. Again, very, very volatile this week. I personally wouldn't take a view on oil until we've heard from OPEC Plus, which is later in the week. That's the global view.
Right. Thank you, Michael. I wanted to talk about the water hose ban and grassing up your neighbor if you see them using a hose. I don't know if you have any intentions to snitch, but why this is very interesting to me as a Nigerian. I mean, we just talked about oil theft in this country and how we're hemorrhaging billions of dollars. Obviously, water is not the biggest foreign exchange earner for the UK, so that would be a false comparison. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the 9 water companies in the UK lose 2.4 billion litres of water a day, yet you're telling the average person you cannot use your hose, you take short showers, grass up the person next door. I mean, isn't it about structural issues rather than forcing the individual to step up to the plate like it's done here?
Absolutely right. It's about structural issues, and that there is no infrastructure existing at the moment to transfer water from one part of the country to another. Globally, I mean, we suspect, don't we, that the next wars, I'm not talking about Russia and Ukraine, but the real big ones will be about water and food. As far as we're concerned, my wife and I, when we showered this morning, we've got a bucket which we now put on the garden. So in other words, she's South African. She knows what water shortages are actually like, and so that's what we're doing at the moment. Our water authority is not. We don't have a hosepipe ban at the moment, but we're expecting one any moment. So we are actually watering the garden, and so we're not in a position to snitch to grass, as you put it, on our neighbours. But I think that most people are fairly responsible, and we are starting almost immediately. We're using one sink, and any grey water, which comes out of the shower and the rest of it, and we're actually putting on the garden. If that helps you at all, it's very, very difficult to know. But you're absolutely right. The water companies are far, far behind everything as usual. Utilities run for the benefit of the people who work for them rather than the consumers. We do have a water meter that was installed about 2 years ago. We're expecting a smart meter for our electricity. Whatever that means, I have no idea. I'd just like to know which bits to switch off. And I think that anything on standby is probably going to get switched off. So bang goes the recording of our favourite television programmes. I mean, it's not really. This is luxury life, isn't it? Really, all the way around the world, having to cope with things. And I think you can.
I mean, it's quite shocking that water is a problem. I thought the Romans. Water is a problem in 2022. I thought the Romans built the aqueducts way back in the Roman era. So it's quite shocking. Shame on all of us, world. Shame on all of us. Real quickly, I'd like to talk about Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak says he's going to do a lot for the people that are suffering in the UK. Question is, where is he going to get the money from? How is he going to do it? And that's number one question. Number two, will Joe Biden's plan truly bring down inflation? Because some analysts are saying there's no way it's going to trickle down inflation in America, that it'll still go up.
The thing about the United States is, I mean, it gives out these strange figures, doesn't it? I mean, we saw those stellar employment figures coming out last Friday, which was, 2 or 3 times the expectation, which is absolutely massive. So there's clearly something going on there. I mean, we are approaching in the United States the peak time when people who live in the United States get in their cars and go to other places in the United States, not necessarily abroad. So there's all that driving season to come. I honestly feel that if I don't, as I said to you, the figures are a mystery to me. I quote them merely because they're out of the Fed, and the Fed is saying the consumer expectation is a slight drop in inflation. They're patting themselves on the back because what they did was they raised interest rates quite aggressively, and it's happening in here. What is Sunak doing? Sunak is being a politician, obviously, and what he's doing is he's looking forward to his place. He's lagging behind in the leadership battle, and he feels as though he's still sticking to his mantra of defeat inflation first and then talk about the cost of living, but he's actually rowing back from that very, very slightly. His opponents are calling it a U-turn, and Truss's opponents are saying that her plans for tax cuts are the biggest suicide note in Conservative Party history, etc., etc. It goes on, doesn't it? Nobody really knows. I mean, any help for the cost of living, I feel, ought to be targeted to those who deserve it most, not people like me, but people who live in the poorest households. And until that happens, I feel as though the politicians' words are fairly empty.
Well, what do you then make of the Lib Dems who are weighing in with their £36 billion energy bills furlough? And I see what they did there, quite cleverly using the word furlough, which a lot of people approve of and invokes all these memories. Her Majesty's official opposition, the Labour Party, is quite conspicuously silent. But at least the Lib Dems are suggesting some kind of alternative. What do you make of that?
The general view, let me tell you what the general view about the Lib Dems is, that not really seriously up to speed in running a country. But if you're asking people I vote for, locally, I would tend to vote for the Lib Dems because they're very good locally. What they do is they've got their finger on local issues much more than the Labour Party has and the Conservative Party has, because they see themselves moving away. I honestly, I mean, I read that kind of figure from the Lib Dems. I think, yeah, okay, fine. I mean, it's not a serious figure, and unfortunately, they are a very well-meaning but probably not very serious party. I mean, in the total view of things. And I'm not speaking politics here. I'm talking practicalities. You want to get the roads fixed. You want to get the drains fixed. You want to get the village pond fixed. All this kind of stuff. This is where you go to the Lib Dems. Good for them.
Thank you for your time, Michael. We'll take a short break now. When we return, our dependable Rota Sadiri will be here to give us an African business update. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Rise News. Because Rufai is in a strop. Our dependable Rota Sadiri is here to give us...
Hurt my feelings. So.
Is here to give us an African business update. Good morning, Rotas.
Good morning, Tundu. Good morning, Rufai. Tundu, yeah, excellent breakdown this morning as the lawyer in the house on what's been going on with this. Rufai, good, well done to you too as well. With what's been going on with the Seplat's acquisition of share. Now, this is where all these issues get muddled up here. Seplat's intended, share acquisition of MPNU. Let's look at this. Look at the tweets from the presidency. What started this all? State House press release. President Buhari consents to acquisition of ExxonMobil shares by Seplat Energy Offshore Limited. Let's take a look at the next tweets. I highlighted this. It said, in his capacity as Minister of Petroleum Resources and in consonance with the country's drive for foreign direct investment in the energy sector, President Buhari has consented to the acquisition of the entire share capital of the company Mobil Producing Nigeria Unlimited by Seplat Energy Offshore. Was there one more tweet? Yes. And then at the bottom there, considering, and then the top just explains what's going on. ExxonMobil entered into a landmark sale and purchase agreement with Seplat Energy to acquire the entire share capital of Mobil Producing Nigeria Unlimited, MPNU, from ExxonMobil Corporation, Mobil Development Inc., and Mobil Exploration, registered in Delaware, United States. Anyway, at the bottom, considering the extensive benefits of the transaction to the Nigerian energy sector and the larger economy, President Buhari gave ministerial consent. Now, of course, you have, both of you have broken this down extensively. Benga Komolafe, head of the NUPRC, coming out to say that, well, exclusively to our Rise News, by the way, and everybody should be checking out Newsnight. That's where this broke, our Newsnight program, saying that it's on hold. Now, where this all gets muddled up is that this, I believe the position of Seplat is that this is a company sale. This is the shares in a company, MPNU, that is being transferred. However, to use a really brilliant analogy I got in conversation with a senior analyst in the oil and gas industry, this is like purchasing a house, right? And you want to just take the structure of the house. What about the assets that are in the house? Now, the joint venture agreement between Mobil and NNPC is on that 40% share of what Mobil holds, in addition to what NNPC holds, is of the assets. So if it sounds like Seplat is trying to be clever by half, because they back in 2009, 2010, They got, I think it was OML 5, OML 31, OML 39, OML 41, operating mining licenses from Shell back in 2019, 2010. January 2020 is when it was approved. They've been through this before. They've acquired assets before, and they understand that the NNPC, as you stated, has the right of first refusal on the assets. If you're making the argument, and I don't want to litigate this on international television, lawyers will go through this, but if you're making the case that you are, oh no, NNPC doesn't have any rights here because we are just taking the company, well, what about the assets that are housed, within the company? That's where all this gets, the back and forth. So we'll see how long it takes. But look, on the flip side, the communication between, and look, and the Gbenga Komolafe should be applauded for coming out so quickly to put, this within hours, right? Because everybody had ran with this story that President Buhari had approved this. There's got to be some kind of communication between, like, hey, listen, we're about to send out this tweet and we're about to approve this this transaction. Should we do that?
It's embarrassing.
Hey, the PIA puts all the power within the commission. You're the one that's in charge of this. Should we, and you've talked about the embarrassment and all of that. But look, it would be nice to get this transaction closed as quickly as possible. So maybe Seplat needs to withdraw their suit and get this sorted out. But there's the issue of whether or not NNPC has the capacity to operate those assets, because it's part of their contract where they have the rights to take over the operation of them. But Seplat is a very well-run company. This is a dually listed firm on the Nigerian exchange and over in London. Corporate governance, pristine. You saw their half-year results recently where they profited from rising oil prices, good dividend for their shareholders. The stock has been doing very well. As you saw from the tweets, I know the presidency got it wrong, but when I highlighted those parts about what it means for the energy sector, what it means for foreign direct investment, Rufai, you mentioned both, and Tundu, what oil and gas companies looking at what's going on, how this, it would be nice to just get this sorted out, because we touched on this in February. We touched on this in March. We touched on this in May. They came out earlier saying that, well, they didn't go through the proper channels and didn't communicate. It's okay, fine. We know what needs to happen. Let's get it done quickly. And, because these are assets that are going to boost output for the upstream for Nigeria as far as oil production is concerned. So get it done quickly and move on. It's 6 months now. We've been on this for 6 months.
And what signal does that send? This is the thing. In the tweet, it said in consonance with the drive for foreign direct investment.
Right.
This is guaranteeing quite the opposite, unless it's quickly and equitably resolved.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're looking at Nigeria as a possible investment destination, what are you going to think?
Right.
When policies are not clear to people who are supposed to operate the policies, you cannot say really grandiosely the president in his capacity as a minister for petroleum, when it's actually the commission that
should be doing that.
It's in black and white.
Why didn't the presidency communicate with
the PIA? It's in black and white.
It's a $1.2 billion deal. There is I think a contingency for an additional $300 million. So this goes to 1.5. So it's a lot of money we're talking about here with assets and
But unfortunately, carry on.
So I mean,
sorry, I still got more story. Real quick. Look, we can debate this thing. It's a very big story. We could go on all day, and debate this thing. It's very, very quickly, just to run through what else is happening. What else is happening? Aviation, Air Peace has halted its South Africa route. It's saying as a result of the increase in jet fuel costs and also because of visa issues. We know, look, I don't know what's going on between South Africa and Nigeria, but I personally know of someone here in this company and other people in other areas that tried to get a visa to South Africa to go cover some events, and they were just held up for such a long period of time. So Air Peace is saying that if so many passengers from Nigeria are going to South Africa and their visas are being held up, then we can't even justify the cost of flying a half-empty plane all the way there, plus when jet fuel is so expensive. Ghana is, Kenyans are going to the polls very quickly. Voting kicked off at 6 a.m. this morning. Polls closed at 5 p.m. 22.1 million registered voters. Diaspora voters in a dozen countries are also voting.
Imagine.
Diaspora. I really did want to point that out.
Thank you for
Kenyans in
that out.
other countries are voting. Hello, Nigeria. 7-day window to declare the winner. Then a second, more details on that. You got to get 50% of valid votes and at least 25% in half of the 47 counties that are in order to win. If the threshold is not met, you've got another runoff within 30 days. A court challenge must be submitted to the Supreme Court within 7 days of the results. Court must decide within 14 days of the petition. If the election is deemed invalid, as it was in 2017, then you got another election in 60 days. And then finally, there's sources are saying that Ghana is going to actually seek $3 billion, not 1.5. From the IMF, so we'll see how that
works.
And
of course they are.
But I know they were going to seek more, that 1.5 billion, because when you look at the problems on ground in Ghana, definitely that 1.5 will not.
Probably wouldn't have gone too far.
And it's quite shocking how African countries in general is run, be it Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana. This, I think since 57, this is about the
17th time that they've gone to
IMF, and they will go out there, they will debate every time, they will still go to the IMF, they will run the economy in a very shabby way. But what I just wanted to say, as regards this NNPC, Seplat, NURPC debacle is, if a lot of people keep, and I'm arguing as a Nigerian patriot, my country comes first. In everything, it motivates my thought, my action, and everything that concerns me. If everybody is saying, oh, they can run it better, blah, 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 and all of that, but we also on television, when NNPC celebrated this revamp,
as a limited liability company.
Limited liability company. I said they were very nimble, they're agile now, they want to trade, they want to make money, they'll raise money, they even talked of an IPO.
In about 3 years.
In about 3 years. Are you telling me that NNPC that talked of that we all are excited, that Asha made that lovely performance for, we all danced, we said NNPC is here, cannot manage those assets?
So I see where you're going.
Are you telling me, with all the assurances of corporate governance that Mele Kyari and everybody gave us, with all the assurances that money will be made, that it's a new dawn, with all the... Are you telling me that NNPC, my Nigeria's NNPC of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, cannot manage that asset? I rest my case on that.
It's a big. It's huge. I get what you're saying.
Why are you looking that way?
We just need it to be sorted out. They just need to sort it out.
I made my point.
And NNPC can handle it.
They can handle it.
Of course they can.
So don't tell me they can't handle it. Because you're looking at me with corner eye. I'm just saying
because you're even raising it. You have little faith.
NNPC can handle it. Of
course they can.
Yes, and go NNPC.
Right.
So as we're saying, the aviation fuel situation, yes. But I think really, we honestly need to call the Embassy of South Africa to order. If possible, call them up on TV. We'd like to speak to High Commission, because we don't know what's happening with the visas. And it's not only been, it's been, I think, since last year.
Yeah, it's really
They blame COVID, and I think layoffs, and
you have to go to Abuja. You have to go to Abuja to go get your visa.
I read the whole thing about it. They had to hire some extra people to clear the backlog. COVID lockdown was a while ago, though.
So they can open up the Lagos office, open up more offices where people can get access to these visas. You're forcing people to fly to... Anyway, I don't want to be... Yeah, that's the issue. So it's impacting business now for an airline that's supposed to be going to a profitable route. Artists in Nigeria go to South Africa to go shoot music videos. So, I mean,
I think artists should stop that.
Exactly.
Well, giving money to South Africa. There are places here, too, we can shoot
of course
video.
There are, but you see that we're going in another direction. Now, there's the equipment, the issues of, we've heard stories of people who try to shoot videos here and then touts come out and try to ask them to pay money and all those other things.
We have to make it work one way or the other.
It's infrastructure.
It's infrastructure.
So the tech, the videos.
All of that, the tech and the videos. You have to make it work. See, you remember the case of that famous television show that was being produced in South Africa. After public outcry, they brought it back here, and it has not changed anything. So we need to also look inward and spend the naira to make the economy grow. Just like
I fail to see why people go to South Africa to shoot anything.
Okay,
but I want to talk about NNPC and Seplat.
Let's get back on that. It's the hottest story of the day.
Topic du jour.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I don't see a court actually trying to decide who is going to be a better parent to the baby. It's not going to happen.
Actually, good
point. The
point.
court is just going to look at what was agreed and uphold that. So whether Seplat is eminently qualified which they are.
Yeah.
Well, the NNPC is eminently qualified,
Right.
which they are.
Right.
It's really neither here nor
neither
there.
here nor there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that issue of, look, yeah, the case Seplat is making that we are acquiring the company, I'm sure the courts with all the contract that's
So they
there.
will have to look at it,
what
yeah.
about the assets and what happens to it? So you can't separate the two. That's
in
the issue, I think.
deal, the NNPC has got right of first refusal.
Right.
And they jointly own it. And before the transaction, Mobile, I'm not sure they even cleared with the NNPC.
Right.
So what if it's a shared purpose of the assets and not a transfer?
You get.
See,
so
then I
those,
guess- right,
those are the
good
fine
point. So
details
that-
that
right.
will come out.
Yeah.
But you see, whoever the people will be that will decide all of this, I just hope, and I'm making a point here, that the wisdom of King Solomon prevails in the sharing of the baby.
Aha.
Yeah.
Good point. I like that. I like that.
So
Well, we'll see how things go.
We definitely will. Yeah.
In 6 months, I just hope it doesn't drag on too longer because,
So
you know,
do
the
I.
industry
So do
is the
I.
money.
We want the best for this country.
Indeed.